Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to share with you how to make these DIY recipe cards. These are hand stamped with Cracker Box and Susie stamps. Here's a look at the first set of stamps I'll be using today. I've got this recipe card and then also just this line stamp, which is going to be great for the back of this project that I'm doing. Now these are red rubber cling stamps. You do not need anything special other than a flat surface to stick these onto, or you can just lay them on your work surface and lay your paper over the top to stamp them. Or you can use your stamp positioner like I'll be using today. Now, along with the recipe cards themselves, you also have these great little stamps to put down there in the bottom right-hand corner of what the recipe is for. So you've got a little chicken, you've got a ham, you've got carrots, a little cake, and then bread, and then also a cookie. So great for really kind of labeling and just adding a little extra something to this recipe card that you're making. So like I said, I will be using my stamp positioner, my Misty. I'm using the large one, and I'm also using my creative corners down there in the bottom right-hand corner. I will be stamping onto heavyweight white cardstock. I buy mine at Michael's. You can use whatever you have on hand. You can also stamp on craft cardstock or colored cardstock if you wanted to. I'm going to be coloring on mine though, so I'm going with white. And this measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. You can go a little bit smaller if you want to, but this is just a nice size for me, and it kind of gives me an outline around the stamped image, so that's what I'm going with today. Now with these stamps, they are not sticky, so you don't have to worry about your paper moving around a whole lot once you stamp onto it, and then you might need to stamp again. You don't have to worry about it shifting so much because the red rubber stamps aren't as sticky as your clear stamps. Now with the Misty, you want to go ahead and make sure you remove that mouse pad from behind there when you're using your cling mounted stamps. And then I'm just going to pop my paper right into that nice right corner that my Creative Corners makes. And what that Creative Corners does is it pops my paper away from the bottom and the side. So my stamp isn't going to bump up against those or not stamp as well along those edges. So it just gives me a little bit more room to play with. I'll be using the Midnight ink from Catherine Pooler to stamp with. I'll be coloring so I know that my coloring medium is going to play well with this black ink. Use whatever coloring medium or use whatever black ink will play well with your coloring medium. I like a nice dye ink for this because it dries very quickly, and I know the ink isn't going to transfer on the back of another card if I start doing a bunch of these and I lay them on top of one another. That dye ink soaks into the paper and dries very, very quickly, so I don't have to worry about that smearing situation or even just touching it while I'm picking it up. Sometimes pigment inks can smear that way as well. So when I'm doing a lot, and I'm piling them up over off to the side, you can see as I get done and switching them out. Sometimes just touching the back or sitting that on top, the ink can transfer. The dye ink just helps me to prevent that. Now, as I'm stamping, I am just quickly switching out each one of these. So what I like to do when I'm doing a set of something, I like to do in a line style. So I'll get all my pieces of white cardstock cut, then I'll come in and I will stamp them all with one stamp. Now, one great thing about using the Misty is switching out the stamps or switching out the paper and being able to stamp a lot of the same thing. Another great thing is when you misstamp. So I misstamped in the top right-hand corner on this one. All I needed to do was open up my lid, ink up that spot that I missed, and then place it back down, and I've got a perfectly stamped image now. Now moving on, I'm going to go ahead and stamp on the back of each one of these. So I went through, I stamped all of my recipe cards with that front stamp so I don't have to keep switching stamps out. And then I'll go ahead and move on to the back. Now for the back, I'm just adding this line style stamp. And it just gives me extra room to write my recipe down. Again, I'm going to do that same process. Take each one of my cards, stick it into my Misty, make sure that that corner is nice and tight in that right-hand corner, and then I'll ink it up with my Catherine Pooler Midnight ink and stamp it down. Now, if it needs a second stamping, you can easily do that with this tool, not a big deal. And this goes by very quickly. As you just start to switch them out, it becomes kind of a routine and you just kind of get into a rhythm. So it goes by very quickly, especially using a stamp positioner. Now moving on, I'm going to go ahead and flip back to the front now and stamp in that bottom right hand corner. For each of mine, I'm going to be stamping the bread stamp because I'm going to be writing a poppy seed bread recipe onto each one of these recipe cards. So I'm using the bread stamp. Use whatever you want on this though. Like I showed you at the beginning, there are all those different stamps. I'll be filling my recipe cards in because I think it's a great way to dress up a baked goods gift. And for mine, I'll end up laminating them and then just popping them along with the bread that I give, um, just tying it onto there. But you could easily make these into a nice little gift set. So if you wanted to, stamp a few breads, then stamp a few of the carrots for your vegetables, then stamp a few of whatever you want, all of them if you want, and then pop them into a little recipe card container and you have a great little gift for a newlywed. You could even go so far as to write in some family recipes on a few of those and throw in a few blank ones so they can fill out their own recipes as well. Now what I'm going to be doing once I finish these up is laminating them as well. If you're leaving the recipe cards blank, don't laminate them. Let the person fill them in, and if they want to laminate themselves, they can. But if you're filling them out yourself, I would go ahead and take that extra step and laminate them. You're in a kitchen, you have these set out, things splash, things drip. They get very dirty very quickly. And just taking that extra step to laminate them will keep it just nice and clean for years to come. Not only that, it's just a great way to preserve memories as well. I mean, I know I wish I had some of my aunt's old recipe cards where she had wrote on them. I think that would be awesome. And if they were laminated, even better, because then I could really have just her handwriting secured in there too. Now moving on, I'm going to go ahead and start to color on these. Now again, I like to work in a line style when I'm doing any coloring on a lot of different things. For this, what I did was, I'll show you one whole, just me coloring it in, but after this one, what I did was I colored in all the little pieces that needed to be colored in red. Then I'd switch to green, then I'd switch to my browns, then I'd switch to my gray, and color in all those different areas so I'm not constantly switching out pencils. It doesn't save a ton of time, but it does save a little bit, and any time that can be saved, I am all for it. I'll be coloring all of mine in the same. Like I said, I'm using some reds, some grays, some greens, and browns to color in that bread. What I like to do when I'm coloring in things like this is have a test um, sort of recipe card for this one. So I colored one in completely, and then there were things I didn't like about the way I colored it. So I changed it up on the finished product. And that is just going to give me something that I really truly love and am happy with when I'm finished. Another thing I want to mention, I am using colored pencils to color these in. I'm not taking a whole lot of time, and I'm also not going to do any blending and shading on these. I have a lot to do, so taking that extra step would take me a lot longer. So when doing this, I am just going to go ahead and quickly color these in as best I can. Now the reason I'm using colored pencils for this too, another reason, is because I have a back side on this and I don't want anything to bleed through on the back. So think about your coloring medium. Think about, first of all, if you have two sides, and then think about where this is going to be. It's going to be in the kitchen. So if any water gets splashed on it and it's not laminated, if you have watercolor on there, it's going to run. So think about that. I would go with colored pencils. It's the safest bet. Once I had them all colored, these are ready to be filled in. You can leave them blank, give them as a gift that way. It is a great little gift to give, especially to a newlywed or maybe a new mom or a new homeowner as well. Or if you're making a baked gift, you can go ahead and fill in these and give them along with your baked gift if you don't mind giving away your recipe. What I like to do is fill out the front with all the ingredients, and then on the back I put all the directions. So here it looks, the finished product. I haven't filled all those out in the top right hand corner, but I did fill out a couple to give you both the front and the back view. These are so fun to do, and it really does just make those baked goods just a little bit extra special. And before I go today, I want to tell you all thank you, thank you, thank you so much to everyone who clicks on those links down below and watches my videos and watches those ads. I don't know if you guys know how much it means to us small content creators when you click those links. And if you aren't familiar with affiliate links, head over to my blog. I have a whole section about them over there. I'll leave that link down below. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It made such a big difference, especially around this time of year. That is going to do it for me today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you aren't a subscriber yet, you can do that right now. Hit that subscribe button. Happy crafting, everyone.